What's up, War Rapport family? I am your host, C Dub. We are weeks away from spring football practice starting, and we want to ask you guys which returning player needs to have a really good spring in order to be a contributor in the fall. We'll discuss that as well as transition to basketball, where Auburn lost a tough one on the road against number 2 Tennessee. We'll discuss that as well as that very controversial no call at the end of the game. All that and more in today's live. Let's get this tailgate started.
You are now listening to a War Rapport Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. Happy Sunday. I am joined by Ike Jones. Me and Ike today, we want to welcome you to the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by our show sponsor. Let's show them some love, Athletic Architects. Guys, please be sure to visit buildthehouse.com if you are a student athlete or if you're just looking to start an LLC, you have a great idea for that. They can help you begin to plan your financial future. We definitely want to show some love to Athletic Architects for being a sponsor of today's show and being a partner and supporter of the War Rapport. Speaking of supporters and partners, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us on this lovely Sunday. You can do a lot of things to help us, guys. One of those things is to share this video on social media. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people who have not heard of the War Rapport, not familiar with our content. You can be the solution to that by sharing this video. Also, while you're here, give us the thumbs up. Give us the sign of approval that you are enjoying this content, that you were here, by smashing that like button, and subscribe, guys. We're getting really close to 10K subscribers. So we appreciate it if you subscribe, tell a friend so they can subscribe. We appreciate it a whole lot. There's a lot of content that we provide that's free, guys, but there's some content we provide that's not free, but it's just as amazing. I can tell you all about that and how you can access said content.
Yeah, absolutely. You can click that join button that's right down there below the video and get access to all of our film stuff and any of the other private stuff that we've got going behind the paywall, early access to some of the building rapport segments that we're going to be doing coming up this summer. So you guys make sure that you get locked in with us. We appreciate everybody who's become members of the War Rapport. We want to continue to grow that family. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership to someone, super simple right there from the live chat from your desktop computer, from your phone. No, it's desktop. Yeah, desktop. Just kidding. From desktop, you can gift a membership and let someone else get a month of the War Rapport free on you. Let's do a giveaway again today, courtesy of GW2 Energy, GWT2 Energy. Sorry about that, Walt. I get that right every time. I screwed up this one time. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Hashtag get your weight up in the chat right now if you want to enter to win yourself a War Rapport mug. Those mugs seem to be the thing that's flying off of the shelves for us, man. So we want to get more people ability to sip from the cup of greatness, which is the War Rapport mug. You guys can go ahead and enter hashtag get your weight up to enter for a chance to win that today. We'll do the drawing around the 1 hour mark.
Ike, it's been pretty fun this offseason, man. I must say, a lot of excitement around Auburn football. Obviously, there was a firing and hiring. In case you've been in a rock, Hugh Freeze is the head coach of Auburn football. We've had a pretty exciting early signing day period, the transfer portal, junior day, and last week we got a few commitments actually from 2014, 2024, and 2025. None bigger than Walker White, who we discussed on Friday's live. If you have not checked that out, please be sure to head over there. We won't belabor that anymore. But that came during dead period. So who knows what other commitments may occur throughout this dead period. But for now, we are looking forward to spring ball. And I asked this question. We kind of talked about it offline, but we want to pose a question to you guys. You can join in on the discussion, but we'll discuss amongst ourselves. We know there's an influx of new talent coming in.
Mhm.
And with that, that creates a lot of competition for the guys who are returning players, which we're looking forward to. Mike G has said it a lot. This is going to be one of the biggest spring sessions that we've had in quite some time because there's so many moving parts, new head coach, new coaches on staff. So everyone's kind of new, even though you are a returning player. Who do you think needs to have a really good spring practice this year? We can start with offense, and then we'll talk defense, or we can go the other way around. How you want to do it, right?
It doesn't matter, man. Let's start with the offense, man. Let's get to it.
For me, I would have to say, obviously, we might as well say who's the top two, because obviously we know who's one, right? Robbie needs to have a really good spring
Yeah.
this spring. I mean, I think that goes without saying. But behind him, I would say Holden Garner needs to have a good spring.
Yeah.
Because I think this will go a long way towards determining whether or not Hugh Freeze actually goes into the transfer portal and gets a quarterback.
Yep.
Right. And he said a lot of different things in the offseason. He's made the statement that, hey, I want to see these guys grow up. They can grow up this spring. All it takes is 4 weeks, right, to grow up. They can show him that, hey, I actually got something to work with. Or he can leave out of spring saying the exact same thing he was saying prior to spring ball. So I think between those two, and again, I know Finley is returning as well. I don't know how he factors into this new system that Hugh Freeze wants to do. I know that he was exactly what Brian Harsin liked and wanted. Brian Harsin recruited him, and we saw why he played a factor in previous QB races. I'm not sure if that holds true now with a new head coach, but those are my two. And I think you can just pick a wide receiver. You have Tavares Dawson. You have Malcolm Johnson, who we have been big on the past few seasons. There's a lot of receivers. We know Hugh Freeze likes big receivers. So I'm looking at one of these guys. And again, you got Tavares Johnson coming back. He was your playmaker at receiver. I'm thinking Malcolm Johnson and Tavares Dawson, one of those guys. Dawson came back out of the portal. How does he fit in? What does he do to jump on these coaches' radar? I think that's going to be very interesting, given what we know to be true about Hugh Freeze and what he likes to do. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with all the names that you've said so far. I mean, the quarterback position is, I think, the obvious ones, right? Like you have a spring to convince the coaches that he doesn't, the coaches that they don't need to go to the portal, that you've got your solution right here on the team. We can make it work with one of these three guys that we have. And I'm including TJ in that conversation. But outside of that, I think the guy for me that has something to prove, oddly enough, to these new coaches is going to be Damari Austin. I think, they went out and they brought in Batee, and Damari needs to show them that Batee can come in sub packages and be a return guy for you guys, or be there in case somebody gets hurt. But I'm running back number 2 on this team. I'm the guy who's going to tote the rock for you when Jarquez is not in here. I can catch the ball just as well. I can make moves in open space. I can understand the blocking assignments. I can do all the things necessary to keep me on the field. So when you think 1A and 1B, I need to be 1B. So I think he's got a lot to prove to this new staff. And I say oddly because his position group coach is the same, right? So the good thing about it is he already has an advocate that knows a lot about him and understands why he was brought into the program. But he needs to make sure that he puts some distance between whatever the perception of his ability is and his actual, what he's putting out there during the spring. And I think he's going to work hard to do that. So he's a guy that I think he needs a good spring to make sure that he keeps himself in the rotation the proper way, or the way that he deserves to be this year, because he did not redshirt last year, right? So he doesn't have that additional year of eligibility to play with like some of these other guys might have. The other guy that I think absolutely has the ability in the system that we're going to run is kind of, you've mentioned the big wide receiver prototypical, and I think he's working with the tight ends right now, but you brought in Rivaldo Fairweather.
Mm-hmm.
So where does Landon King fit in this equation of what
Right.
we're doing?
Right.
Right.
He
So
was left out of my three. I definitely considered him. Continue.
yeah, Landon King is a guy who needs to have a big spring because he too is a guy who, eligibility wise, he doesn't have another year to sit out. Like he needs to start putting tape out there that shows NFL scouts, or if he decides to transfer, somebody in the transfer portal. And I'm absolutely not saying I want Landon King to transfer, but I'm just saying, regardless of what Landon King's next season looks like, he needs to put something out there during the spring that shows he deserves to be on the football field this season. And he needs to live up to the potential in a lot of the hype that he's been getting around being a playmaker and a guy who can go out there and make, crazy catches and all this. Can he understand where he's supposed to be at all times as far as what route he's supposed to be running? When the ball's thrown in his direction, is he going to make the catch type of stuff? Can he block well enough to want to be in this kind of system to do the stuff that they want him to do? Landon King needs to have a big spring to make sure that he's moved up in the minds of now new coaches, for whether it's the tight end room or it is wide receiver room. That's going to be a new coach that's going to be coaching them. So it's going to be, and I don't know how they're going to be even handling who's going to be doing the rotations, right? Is the position group coach going to be saying, hey, well, these are the guys that I want to rotate in and out? If it is, then it's a different person that you got to impress with that. If it's the head coach, completely different. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot that needs to be done from that standpoint to have them understand. And as I understand it, Coach Freeze is going to be heavily involved with making sure the wide receiver room is up to par. So he's got some work to do in that respect. Again, if he's in the wide receiver room, if he's in the tight end room, Fairweather's going to weigh heavily on that. You're not going to see a lot of 22 or 12, right? It's going to be
Right.
21 and 11 a lot as far as personnel pack. And if for those that don't know, one running back, one tight end is 11. Two running backs, one tight end is 21. Two running backs, two tight ends, 22. One running back, two tight ends, 12.
I mean,
right?
Pick a tight end, right? Pick a receiver, right?
Yeah.
It's like that because we have recruited, we've stacked a lot of talent in both of those rooms, and given the new scheme we're going to, I mean, you can pick any of those guys.
Right.
I'm seeing James Sawyer mentioning Brandon Frazier.
Yeah.
He was someone who I was thinking about as well. Do you think this week Hugh Freeze talked about as he met with the media on Thursday? He mentioned that he was going to have meetings finally get to sit down and talk with his players this week. Do you think that gets sorted out this week in terms of where Landon King, which room he will be in, you think?
I think you need to, so he can start to, they've already been doing workouts. So as I understand it, he was been working out with the tight ends. So I think this week, as they start to do more of those player meetings, those coaches need to lay out what the plan is for that player. This is where I see you fitting in, or this is where we're going to try to work you in. And this is where we have you right now based, this is where I feel like you've got work to do based on the tape that I saw from you last year. We looked at this and that, and this is what we have as a plan for you to, year one, this is where we want you to be. Year two, like lay that entire thing out for that player so that they understand where they are today and what they need to do during the spring to move them from where they are to where they want to be, or keep them where they are because that is where they want to be, right? Like they need to understand all of those things as they start getting into those meetings. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how these new coaches lay that out for these players, because a lot of that is how you're going to maintain the good and healthy relationships necessary to keep players out of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
It's not all, sometimes it's not always about where you sit on a depth chart, right? Sometimes it's about, I don't understand what we're doing right now. Like, yeah, I'm number 4 on the depth chart, but do I really see a path for me to get out of this space? Like, are my coaches telling me what I need to do to improve? Or is this a temporary thing? And they're saying, yes, this is going to be the guy right now, but if I see XYZ from you, we're going to move you into this spot later. Or, we see you working with this, sub package thing. Like it just lay it out for me what the plan is.
Yeah. And that's something else too, Ike, sidebar, I definitely want to see improved communication between players and coaches and coaches and the parents, right?
Yeah.
The players need to understand where they are, what they need to do to get to where they want to be on this team. So I definitely want to see that communication improve. Unfortunately, we didn't talk about it a lot, but that was one of the things that, as we were talking to players, players' parents, those were some of the things that we were hearing. The communication wasn't where it needed to be. So I'm definitely hoping that improves. Before we get to some of the comments from you guys watching live with us, and again, we thank you guys for hanging out with us on a Sunday. We like Jeremiah Wright.
Hmm.
And we love his motor. We love his mean streak. Obviously, he has to be someone we're looking at in spring ball too, with all of the influx of offensive line talent coming in, who's
Right.
expected to contribute up front. How important is this spring for him?
Yeah, I think this, because for whatever reason, he hasn't exited the spring yet as the first option at guard since he's been in Auburn.
Right.
He gets on the field and he does some great things, right? So he's either been hurt, right, or he gets on the field and does some good things, but it was after somebody else got hurt and he comes in to replace him. You're like, why hasn't this guy been playing? Like, he needs to put something on this field in the spring that shows them there's no reason for anybody else to be your right guard or
Right.
your left guard, whichever one he's going to be playing. Played left guard a lot last year, but there's no reason that left guard, I got this. Go figure out right guard. I got left side. I'm holding that down. So he needs to figure out what it is that Coach Thornton wants from him, and what the blocking assignments are going to look like, what the calls are going to look like. I'm gonna outwork them, whatever it's going to be, and have discipline, right? Like, I think that's really the only knock that anybody's ever had on Jeremiah Wright. Is he a little too fired up sometimes, and extracurricular, blah blah blah. I don't think he's done anything that was just kind of out of the way, but um, can he take all that passion and emotion, knock guys around, make sure he's making his presence felt on that football field, in the practice room, in the weight room, and be a guy that these new guys can gravitate towards, and they understand, hey man, this is the 5, man. We're gonna rock with this 5, and Jeremiah is one of them.
You watched a lot of film, looking at the O-line, looking at guys in different positions. Do you think Cameron Stutz is a key contributor in the fall?
He's up and down. He has some stuff that he's good at. I mean, all of them have been up and down. The thing that Cam Stutz has is experience. He's got the right size. It's going to be interesting to see. He's another guy. I think I think he's going to be a senior this year. This will be his senior year. And so
Yes,
this
he is a senior. He is
his
a senior.
last year of eligibility. So if he doesn't make an impression, he might be out of here. Right? Like,
Yeah.
he don't have nowhere else to
Right.
go but to another team to get snaps, or somebody gets hurt. Right. So it's going to be interesting to see how Cam Stutz factors into this situation, because interestingly, I think the plan is that like I think that the tackle position is gonna be super interesting, right? Like, minus an injury, I think Dylan Wade is your starting left tackle. Um, the Gunnar Britton on the other side, though, I think may struggle a little bit initially at this level. I put the tape on with him and I saw some good stuff, but I also saw some stuff where and now he's going against Derek Hall a lot of the reps that I saw.
In
Right?
fairness, yeah.
But Derek Hall's not the only really powerful, strong, fast D lineman that he's gonna face. Like,
That's true.
that's gonna be every week in the SEC. They're gonna
That's
line
true.
somebody up against you on that left side that you're gonna have to figure out, or that right side. He's gonna probably play right tackle on that right side that you're gonna have to figure out how to deal with. And you got to do it without holding every other play. You got to do it without getting run over. So he's got some maturing he needs to do athletically to be in a position to play right tackle in the SEC week in and week out. So it's going to be interesting. That battle at the right tackle position, I think, is the one that you really need to look at, because I think, Xavion Miller, who came in, the JUCO guy, is a guy who can play. He played tackle at the JUCO level. Is he the answer there? And you kick, whoever doesn't win there inside to guard. Is Britton more of a guard at this level than he is a tackle, right? Does he need to slide into guard, or do you slide Miller in there to guard? And that's where Cam Stutz plays into that conversation of, all right, so if you're going to have Dylan Wade, Jeremiah Wright over here on the left side, the right side is going to be like a 3-person rotational battle, like Miller, Britton, Cam Stutz right now, as far as who I know has played snaps. And then your center position is going to be, Avery Jones has likely got that locked down from what I'm seeing on tape, unless Connor
Hopefully
Lew plays
he
really well.
stays healthy, or Connor Lew just comes on.
Right.
For sure.
So yeah, I think that the right side of the offensive line is going to be interesting to see who of those 3 guys, as far as guys that we've seen get game snaps on this team. Tate Johnson maybe sliding out to guard. I think he's better at guard than he is at center. Right. So there's some guys over there on that right side that they've got to figure it out.
Guys, you've been commenting. Let's get to some of your comments. We've seen James Sawyer. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Love the Avi, by the way. Robbie and Jeremiah are my 2 on offense. Jeremiah Wright and Robbie Ashford, 2 guys we've already mentioned. I'm with you on there. 22 Busy says, I want to see Woodyard turn into that true Mike linebacker. Actually, a sneak preview as to one of the guys who I'm thinking on defense. We'll discuss that after the break. Comes back with James Sawyer here. It says, I was thinking Damari too, especially with Cobb coming in the summer. I think that's definitely going to be the conversation there. How much of Cobb Cobb coming in the summer, but you also have Battie there. So I'm curious to see, what does Battie do? I'm thinking, if everything checks out, all things being equal, these guys remain healthy, I'm expecting Cobb to redshirt.
Yeah.
I think you redshirt Cobb.
I don't know that you're going to have enough snaps unless Cobb is some dynamic punt return guy that you just have to get him back there to do that sort of thing. And I think we've got a ton of dynamic punt return guys that you could put out there that you don't have to. I think the ideal scenario is you have Jarquez Hunter, you have Damari Alston as your second guy, and then your 3rd string back / change of pace guy is Battie. He comes and he returns kicks for you, probably not punts, but at least kickoff duty for him, right? So that's how you get him some additional touches, and then you get him in, like I said, in some change of pace stuff, and you redshirt Cobb, so that next year you got Austin and you got Cobb, and then you figure out who's going to be your running back of the future that you're going to get in and redshirt that guy. So you hope that's the rotation if you're Auburn and you're Cadillac, because that's kind of how you set it up. But Battie is going to be interesting to see how he plays into that whole situation.
And I'm also excited about, again, we had an amazing junior day. We got Caddy. We had a lot of running back prospects coming through Auburn right now. So it looks good in terms of who they're going to bring in behind Cobb for the future. Kyle Sweat says we need Lando. Speaking of Landon King, so that's another battle we'll definitely be keeping an eye on. Brian Hancher says the only thing that bothers me about Ashford Garner question is that I'm not sure you could plug one into a system designed around the other. Thoughts on that, Ike?
It kind of depends, right? Like, I think the system is going to be designed to make sure that the quarterback can throw the ball first and foremost, right? Like, it's going to be RPO stuff, right? But how that RPO is going to look a little different if the quarterback is Robbie Ashford versus Holden Garner, right? And the only thing that makes that slightly different is the run threat, right? But you can still run the same RPO principles, which is it starts in the shotgun. It starts with a 3 wide receiver set, and you have a pass tag on the back end of a handoff look, right? And that handoff is either an intended RPO thing to bring the linebackers in, or it's an actual handoff, or you're going to, if it's Robbie, you have the option of the quarterback actually running more often in a called run option for him. But I think everything that surrounds that is the same. The difference is going to be how much the quarterback runs in that scenario and how the defenses have to respond. So defensively, I think they have to adjust. Offensively, the system's probably going to be very the same. The play calling is going to be what you have to adjust. Are you going to call some designed runs for Robbie? Because everything else should be the same.
Right. And is there the theory? Is it a safe theory that if you have improved the passing game, it does make the RPO even more dangerous?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
typically for Auburn in the past, you keyed in on the running game, which means
Mhm.
you really needed a Robbie Ashford there. But if Holden Garrett is out there slinging the ball around, it's just as effective, but it works differently for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, think about what happens in, you know, 2019 LSU, right? Like, though
Yeah, yeah,
quarterback could run, right? He wasn't running. What he was doing is carving you up with slants. And then it made it where, okay, now we can't be so downhill against the run because we have to stop this slant. So your linebackers have to take a half a second to realize, oh, this isn't a run play. I can't come downhill, slant coming right behind me. Like that changes what you can do in a run situation too. Your quarterback doesn't have to run, but
right,
he can. Right now,
right.
if that's a running quarterback in that LSU team that could throw like that, good luck. Freak good luck.
It was good
Like
luck. It was good luck already.
that's what I'm
But
saying. Like
yeah,
it's literally it's not you can't stop that if the quarterback can actually run for real. Like
yeah,
there's just literally no way to stop that offense.
yeah,
And so
for
that's
sure.
that's the thing that makes Robbie the potential for him crazy, right? Is if he can figure out how to do the short passing game or he can hit some of those deep throws, his potential to run the ball becomes like, how do you stop this offense? Right. But
Yeah,
that's what makes him the X factor. But Holden absolutely can go out there and just make the throws necessary, the short swing passes, the short slants, and then hit a few deep shots over the top that will allow you to be an effective run team as well.
Kyle Sweat says, I would love to see the guys we currently had on roster to shine and dominate. How amazing of a coaching job it would be if we got a 10-win season with the guys that struggled in the last system. It would be. I mean, we saw these guys improve in some aspects when Caddy took over, right? They just changed up some things schematically, and then all of a sudden our run blocking didn't look as awful as it did prior to the coaching change, right? So the hope is that Hugh Freeze and staff, again, I'm going to be impressed by what they do in the month of February. It's already a short month, and you're starting practice at the end of the month. They've been on the Hugh Freeze said they've been recruiting, they've been on the road, working on building up their roster. They haven't had a lot of time to work on this system. So for them to put it together in an effort to improve the play of the guys that we currently have will be amazing to see. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Yo, Malcolm says, what's King's speed like? I haven't watched him stretch the field vertically. Is he more of a possession receiver? I'm thinking possession, but what say you, Ike?
Yeah, I haven't seen him stretch the field either. I don't recall any stuff where he's just running past people. So I'm not sure. So hey, man, Landon, I asked Holden to do it. He wasn't very interested in going out and running. Landon, hey man, just maybe sometime during these workouts. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit up one of the players that I do have access to and tell them, hey man,
Mm,
let's go film ourselves doing a race and invite Landon to come out there and run with y'all. Let me see how that looks.
I like it. I
Who's the
like it.
fastest tall receiver on Auburn? Is it can you keep up with Mardner? Hmm?
I
Because Mardner's
definitely want
supposed to
to.
got burners on him. So let me see what's up.
One thing's for sure. I want to see Lando in the red zone
Oh yeah,
because
nah,
we've seen
he's
him do amazing stuff in the red zone.
but yeah, oh that'd be an interesting thing. Mardner, Camden Brown, Landon King, and Amari Kelly in a foot race. I
Hmm.
want to see all the tall receivers in the foot race. See
You want
what's
to see
up.
Fairweather?
Oh, Fairweather would be interesting in that too, because he could run a
He's
little bit.
6'5", 245.
Yeah.
Put Fairweather in that.
Let me out. I'm gonna see what I could do to
All right.
stir up a little something. See if we can get them boys out there in the foot race, man. Because y'all, or at least timed stuff, right? Like you don't have to race each other, but let me just see you go run, the 40 and see who gets the fastest time. Mm.
Let's see here. Corey Weber says, I think Miller slides into the guard. So Wright plus 4 newcomers are your starting 5. Thoughts on that one?
I mean, that's kind of what I was saying about that, whole right side of the line situation. If you have Dylan Wade and Jeremiah Wright on the left side, you have Avery Jones on the center, then the right side is going to be Britton Wright. I mean, excuse me, Miller or Tut, maybe Tate Johnson. Those 4 guys battling out for those 2 spots in guard and tackle. So
G. Boston says Gunner can also play guard as well. So
Yeah.
got something to consider. Tyson Sigler says the competition for running back 2, which is what you mentioned earlier, Ike, behind Hunter. Good. That's a good one. Kyle Sweat comes back and says, from everything I've heard from this staff, I can't help but get excited. This crew knows the deal and knows how to instill belief. I think there's an article out that talks about Zach Etheridge talking about the importance of the players buying into the culture going into spring ball. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. But I agree with you, Kyle, for sure. Leanne Owen says, I have wanted to see more of Landon since the Penn State game. I still don't see why we saw so little of him after that. Good question. Even when, every time he got in and the ball was thrown his way, amazing things happened. And so it left me curious, wondering why in the world did we not see more of him? I'm hoping that changes.
Yeah.
Especially if he gets some opportunities and makes the most of it. I'm hoping that changes moving forward for sure.
Yeah.
As well as with a lot of guys. He became kind of the face of that, but there were a lot of guys who made plays that we begin to see very little of after the fact. So I'm looking forward to changes on that front. Lisa Wise, thank you for hanging out with us and appreciate the super chat. She says, in my opinion, Damari Austin has the decided advantage heading into spring with the same position coach. Coach Caddy knows his work ethic. Damari knows Coach Caddy's expectations regarding practice, film study, etc. So Lisa Wise is saying, hey, Damari Austin, he has a leg up. He is his job to lose in terms of RB2. Thoughts on that, Ike?
I mean, I think I would have said 100% yes until they brought in Batee, right? And then I was like, okay, well, they apparently, because I mean, they were pushing really hard for the kid from Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, what is it that he hasn't shown you that makes you feel like that he's not the solution for you at that? Or is it just purely a depth thing, but you bring in a guy
experience thing?
Yeah, right. But you bring in a guy who's a senior in Batee, that kid's expecting to get some snaps. So that's a few less snaps that Damari Austin could potentially get. Or are you going to use him in a very specific way? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I liked what I saw from Damari Austin. I told you guys I've been going through doing cut-ups, and I did the Robbie Ashford cut-ups for all of his stuff. And of course, you're going to see everybody on the offense play, because I can't just skip. I don't know exactly which play to skip to on the timeline. So I got to go find a play. And you see Damari Austin go out there, and you see him do some good things in the times he had the opportunity to touch the football. So it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses in year 2.
We was talking about speed on some of these guys. Chris Sanders says ESPN says his 40 was a 4.82 for Landon King. Fairweather somewhat says Fairweather runs a 4.4 or 4.5.
That's moving for a dude that big, man.
He's got some burners on him for sure.
That is moving for a guy that, I mean, that's impressive for a smaller receiver, right? It's not like blazing fast, but like I'd expect somebody like Coy Moore to run a 4.4, right? Rivaldo Fairweather is significantly larger than Coy Moore, and if he's moving at the speed of a receiver at that size, it's a lot. That's a lot to deal with in the open field.
For sure. Oof. Looking forward to it. Cal Sweat says if Ashford wins the job, that means he's improved his reads, touch on his balls, and blazing speed. That sounds like the making of a great season. If it's Holden, I see a really good season.
Yeah, don't disagree with any of that.
Same here. Good stuff here, guys. You are watching the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Athletic Architects. Do us a favor, guys. Share this content. We're having a good discussion today, so people need to hear this. Make sure they hear this and see this by sharing this on social media. That is your Facebook and Twitter. While you're here, show us some love. Help us with the YouTube algorithm by smashing the like button, and help us get closer and closer to 10K subscribers by subscribing, telling a friend, grab someone else's phone, make sure they're subscribed. Do the necessary to help us out. Let's take some time to pay some bills and acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Rapport is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to buildthehouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Always thanks to the sponsors of the War Report, and thank you to those of you who have continued to support with membership. I know it's like very tempting during the off season to be like, I don't know, but we actually we turn up on the member content during the off season. Now that I am doing this on a more full-time basis, man, I am cranking out something for y'all once a week that you as a member can participate in. So make sure that you're getting on board with that membership. Whenever you join, you can go back and watch the previous stuff. So if you join today, you should have your fill of film that you can go back and watch, because I sit on here for an hour to an hour and a half every week breaking down film. So you got a ton of stuff you can go catch up on if you decided to join today. You don't have to worry about whether or not I could never drop another thing. And if you join today, you would get a month's worth for sure of film to watch. So go ahead and support and become a member of the War Report. We appreciate it. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now from the live chat. Just click on the little gift box and decide how many people you want to bless with a free month of the War Report on you. We're going to give away another mug today. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, as always, is the sponsor of this giveaway. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat. We'll be doing that drawing here in about 20-some minutes. Make sure you tap in as well. Go listen to the podcast, man. We got great podcast content going up daily for you all. Make sure you get that audio-only version of a lot of this stuff. We're replaying stuff from here, but we've also got stuff that you can only hear at the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
James Barnett, appreciate the super chat. I didn't see your comment, but you're a regular commenter here, and I usually catch yours anyway, so I'll be on the lookout for you, sir. Thank you for that. Let's talk defense, Ike. Let's talk the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. One of the people three of the guys that I'm looking at, there's some easy ones. Now I'm gonna have to pivot since it's just you and I, or you can just fill in some names that I don't grab. But one of the guys that I'm looking at who I think really needs this spring, I'm going with Zeke Walker, who came back out of the transfer portal to the team. And again, we've added a lot of bodies to the defensive line. Obviously, you can say Thanos. You may mention him, but I'm thinking of Zeke Walker, who had pretty much, it wasn't even 1 foot out; both feet were out. He came back at the last moment. I'm looking to see what he does this spring ball. He's someone that I have been looking forward to seeing. He's been hampered by a lot of injury during his time at Auburn, so I'm hoping that he's healthy, he's motivated, he can get out and really contribute in this spring. I'm going to the second level here. Woodyard is a guy that I'm looking forward to having a very strong. He's been kind of a fan favorite for most Auburn fans, as well as people who frequent the War Rapport. People mention a lot about him. A big story with him joining Auburn, given what happened at Alabama, who he was all set to join at one point and then switched his commitment to Auburn. He's got to be a good guy, right? If Alabama really wanted him. I'm expecting him, given his size, given his potential. I'm looking for him with a new linebackers coach. I'm looking for him to be motivated and come out and just have an amazing spring ball and really be somewhere in that 2 deep where he's actually being able to contribute in the fall. I really want to see Woodyard pan out as one of our great linebackers for the future at Auburn. Going to the second level, again, it's almost like the wide receivers and tight ends. Like, just pick one, right? For me, I'm looking at someone like Austin Osbury at cornerback. We had heard some things about him early last year, but again, so much depth, so many guys, even guys who returned, DJ James, those guys came back for another year. So what does that mean for those guys? And so you also have an influx of DBs coming in. But I'm gonna go to the safety position. Marquise Gilbert. He came in with much fanfare Came in with a lot of hype, but we didn't get to see him. And so I think this is a very important spring for him because obviously he transferred here because he expected to see the field and get on the field. I wonder if he's not in the too deep or if he's not a key contributor, what does that mean for someone like him in the transfer portal when it opens up in May?
Yeah.
So I'm keeping my eyes open on Marquise Gilbert in the safety position. Who you got?
So I think I want to start with Dylan Brooks. I think Dylan Brooks, I heard the comments that that were made at the Senior Bowl about him being the next guy for this team. Derek Hall had some very positive things to say about Dylan Brooks and his abilities. I want to see that. I want to see him emerge as a premier outside rush threat, that true havoc maker out there.
Mm,
We thought Leota was going to be for us, last year if had
right.
not been injured. I need Dylan Brooks to be that guy off the edge that just gives people fits. If it's 3rd and 6 or more, identify where Dylan Brooks is on the field, or it's going to be a long day for your quarterback. I want him to be that guy for us this year. So I'm looking at Dylan Brooks to have a big spring to step up and really take that. You brought in Elijah McAllister from Vanderbilt. Dylan needs to say, "Hey, cool, but I'm still the guy here." Right. Um, if you go to that linebacker level, I think you picked the perfect person. I'll say that. Listen, man, Wesley Steiner, man, this might be your lease on life, bro. Like, you got to prove that you could do it, right? Woodyard he's here. Austin Keys is here. DeMario Tolan is here. How do you get snaps unless you're playing special teams if you're Steiner? So that means the spring,
Yeah.
you got to show that you've worked on your ability to be there where you're supposed to be and your ability to get there and make the tackle. You got to show that this spring. Are you going to be the guy that's not just fast and a good and a thumper that when he does hit you, he's going to bring his pads, but like how consistently can you be where you're supposed to be? How well are you analyzing what's happening and getting into your run fits? Because it's going to be, it's not going to be a single run fit read where it's like I got A gap this time or I got the C gap, right? It's figuring out because it's going to change play to play. What's your run fit supposed to be? Go attack that fit aggressively. And when you get there, get the guy on the ground. So I think Steiner's got a lot to prove in the spring.
I was going back and forth between Steiner
because his tape doesn't help him, right?
Right.
It's inconsistent. His tape is good in some places and it's not in others. So you got to prove to this new staff, almost completely new staff. Like the only guy that knows you on this defense doesn't coach your position, right? Everybody else is completely new. And the guy who runs the defense is a linebackers guy. You've got a linebacker coach in your room.
Right.
Both of those guys know what they want from the linebackers in this system. You got a lot to prove there. All right. And then when you go to the backside here, I think that Pritchett has a lot to prove. A lot of people down on Pritchett. He's got the speed. He's one of the fastest guys on the team, according to everybody last year. But is he going to be a guy who can consistently hold down the other side opposite of DJ James? I think that Pritchett's super talented, but because DJ James is so talented, whoever's going to be on the opposite side is going to get the ball thrown to them a lot more. They're going to avoid DJ James early in the season unless you just got like that dude on your team where you're like, oh man, I don't care who lines up against him. I trust my receiver against any DB out there until he proves that he's going to lock him down. That means a lot of teams are going to say, all right, which side is DJ James on? We'll throw it to the other side. Or we're going to scheme to get our guy that we think is our best receiver. If he's going to be the permanent right corner, then we're going to just throw it to the left every time, right? Like that's how it's going to happen until he starts making people say, no, I don't think you want to test his side of the field either. We're going to have to we're going to have to scheme somebody open. We're not just going one-on-one match up a dude to death because that's not going to work.
Right.
And if he doesn't prove that he can be that guy in the spring, Keontae Scott is there. JD Rim is there. Austin Osbury, who you mentioned, is there. We got the KN Lee, the freshman, there. Like those guys they're gonna come in ready to play. So this is your last year. Prove it. You got because he's a guy who can hit the transfer portal, right? Like if he don't like what he see, he can go figure it out somewhere else. If he wants to be at Auburn this year, he's got to prove it. And then the other guy that I think has a lot to just kind of prove to everybody and to himself is Zion Puckett. Where does he fit into this whole situation? You know, he's that tweener safety linebacker guy. Is he going to be the star position in this defense that's going to play like a hybrid linebacker? Is he going to be a permanent safety? You know, what does he do to make sure he continues to get snaps for this team? Because another guy that's super talented, but also had some coverage busts, also had some missed tackle situations out there. Can he bring it more consistently? And the physicality that he has just naturally, can he convert that to the field more consistently? I think it's a big one.
You know, there was some things on Twitter we saw coming from Thanos. Seemed like he was thinking of leaving himself.
Right.
Obviously that didn't happen. He's still with the team. I think this is an important spring for him as well, given what we've added to that room out of the transfer portal. What do you expect to see from him this spring, man?
So listen, defensive front, Jason Jones is going to be your zero technique, and he's going to rotate in with Lawrence Johnson, probably the transfer that we brought in from Purdue. Then you're going to have Marcus Harris, who's going to likely get a lot of snaps. He plays consistently well. He is a guy who kind of was up and down last season. You didn't see his name get called as much as you would like to, as a guy who was played so well his first season here. And he had some missed tackles, and he was getting the penetration, but then he wasn't making the tackle some of those times. So he's a guy that you want to see flash. But then the other side of that, you've got you need to see Thanos step up. Right, like he's a big physical presence. We brought in another transfer with Naseel Kite coming down.
He's a senior, by the way.
Yeah, who you're saying is a senior?
Kite is a senior.
Oh yeah. So Naseel Kite's played a lot of football at Maryland. So you're going to be in rotational duty trying to get snaps with him. You need to go out there and whoop some people in the spring and show that you're not just a big dude. You're a big dude who understands where he needs to be. He understands pad level. He understands, gap integrity. He understands all the things that they're going to ask him to do, and go out there and be impressive to combine with your physical. He's like I just said about Zion Puckett. Physically, you got everything needed. You got the speed, you got the strength, you got the size. Let's see it on the field and go out there and dominate some people. I do think Jeffrey Emba had flashes last year when he played. He had some. He was injured a couple of times too during the season. So stay healthy. Go out there and whoop some people this spring. So I'm looking forward to seeing what year 2 with him looks like.
Good combo here. I'm assuming, given the guys that we got coming in, Tolan, you think Cam Riley's in a good space here, or is this an important spring for him as well?
I mean, I think Cam Riley, he's one of the few people returning on that defense that I think has good film to put out there, right? Yeah. So he should be high on the list already. I would think so. Is this his junior or senior year? I think he's a senior.
This is a senior. He's a senior this year.
This is a prove it year for him for the NFL, right? Like he needs this so that he doesn't have to be a grad transfer somewhere. Right. And to be, if he's got NFL aspirations, this is the year he needs to go out there and prove that he can make somebody's NFL roster. So he needs to make this a year where people are saying, oh, he's a player for real. Yeah. I can see him on my team type of guy. So it's important for him from that standpoint, but I do think he has a little bit of a leg up of some of the other guys, just because, again, he has film that's out there that shows him doing good things.
For sure. Let's get to some of you guys' comments. You've had a lot of thoughts on this particular topic. James Barnett, speaking of offense, he says Cobb is one of those players that if they do give him a chance in a game, he may take someone's spot. Just saying. Have you seen a good bit of his film, Mike? Have you seen
a little bit? Film? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, listen, dynamic. He's got what they call breakaway speed. Like he's one of those guys, if he gets into the open field, he's gonna be hard to catch. So definitely a playmaker, but I think, I think all of the guys in that running back room, I could say that about though. I think Damari Austin is dynamic with the ball in his hands. I saw him do some pretty amazing things the couple of times he touched the ball this season.
Yeah.
Jarquez Hunter, we already know what he could do with the ball in his hands. So I don't think that there's any. I think you could literally say that about any of those guys, man. Get the ball to them. They're going to make you do. I think the thing that's going to be the separator for all of these guys is who pass blocks the best, right? Who is the best, most reliable guy on third down scenarios where you've got to block and release and you got to chip and you got to pick up the blitzer, right? Like those are the guys that I think are going to separate themselves, because as far as playmaking ability, I think every guy in that running back room is a playmaker.
Do we see Sean Jackson become kind of an H-back? You think?
I don't know where Sean Jackson fits into this puzzle, man. I think he catches it, like he's a good pass catcher. He's, runs behind his pads really well, but he's not the athlete that some of these other guys are. So he's going to be a guy that he's going to have to make it in special teams and in spot duty. I just, H-back type of stuff, I don't see that being a heavy need for this, considering we're not going to be running a 2-back system very often. So if he's not in a tight end room, then he's going to have to get his snaps at running back. And that's a difficult place to get snaps these days.
Philip Petway, appreciate you hanging out with us. He gives us his 3: Woodyard, Steiner, and Brooks. All good choices there. Sure. I'm with you on that. James Sawyer says my 3 on defense are Walker, Woodyard, and Osbury. Corey Weber asks, is Craig McDonald still around?
He hadn't left. Yeah.
He's still there. He just seemed he seemed a step slow and a bit lost when he was out there, Ike. I don't know what you saw in him, but this would be an important spring for him as well, given though he's still on the team. But he seemed like he had just gotten to Auburn. Like he wasn't fast at all. And I'm not saying that he's slow, but it just seems like he was doing a lot of thinking when he was on the field.
Yeah.
And as a result, we didn't see a lot of him.
It's got to be interesting to see. He's another one that, like Marquise Gilbert, it's just the safety room's so crowded, man. And you can't play but 2 of them. So if you don't have the ability like a Simpson to transfer from inside to outside to safety, then you're banking on getting into the safety rotation in that room. When you've got,
it's crazy.
I could just rattle off names of safeties for this team that could start in a lot of places. And yeah, he's got a battle. He's got a battle.
For sure. Wesley Hilson, appreciate you hanging out with us. Is Puckett going to move to linebacker? We keep suggesting that. And you mentioned Puckett as one of the guys. Do you think you still see him lining up as safety throughout the spring, or do you see them experimenting with Puckett any?
Yeah, I think that there is that star position that exists that's a hybrid linebacker that fits for him, but it also fits for a guy like Donovan Kaufman, who I think could do that. I think that Keontae Scott could do that. I think, there are.
I actually like Kaufman more in the star.
Yeah, Kaufman is a guy who is great in run support. He's a willing tackler, but he can cover. Right. Yeah. He's smaller, but he plays in the box well. Right. So,
he covers better than Puckett, which is why I like him better than Puckett. That's why I think the star position hurts Puckett from that vantage point, because at some point you got to ask him to play in space and defend the pass.
Yeah. So, you can do a lot of things with the way that they move guys around, and Puckett being big as a linebacker, if it's a team that runs the ball a lot, maybe you want to have a bigger guy out there doing that sort of thing. So maybe it's certain games that he plays a little bit more. I don't know, but I do know that he's a guy they're going to have to figure out what role works well for him, because I don't think he's found his spot yet.
For sure. Steve Bradley says Dylan Brooks need about 15 to 20 pounds to really get the job done, in my opinion. I think he looked a little lean his freshman year, but again, strength and conditioning program, we don't know what he's going to look like in spring or come fall, so that remains to be seen how he looks. Lee Carter says Steiner better show out this spring. I agree. He needs to. He needs to. Now, am I butchering this? Is it some whack or some? I think some whack.
I think it's some whack. Yeah.
Some whack. Some whack says, I hope Simpson stays at safety this year. That is his money maker position. I like Simpson at safety.
Yeah, he played really well as
I
the
like
middle
him at
field
safety.
guy.
I'm with you. I agree with
which
this comment.
means that's even more
That's another
crowded in that
safety.
room.
That's
right?
another safety, right?
Caden Bridges,
Caden
Caleb
Bridges.
Wooden. We got
Bridges played well at times. At
yeah,
safety.
man. It's just like there's a lot of guys to line up back there at safety. You already talked about Marquise Gilbert. We talked about Zion Puckett. Like there's a lot of safeties. And again, you're only going to play 2, right? Even if you're going to be doing like a, you know, a cover 3 defense where you're going to have 3 deep guys on most things and you're going to rotate them. Usually that third guy that's rotating deep is going to be a cornerback. So maybe you're going to do some sort of hybrid cornerback safety person. I don't know, man. They've got a lot of decisions that they have to make in this evaluation. And with those 2 rooms being coached by 2 different people, right? Like, I don't even know if there's ability to move around like that, right? Like if you're going to be a safety, you might just have to be a safety. So I don't know, man.
Right. We will definitely see. Voris OG says Scott, JD Rhyme, Gilbert, coming this year. Both. So that was his 3. He says who's going to step up and play amazing. Hope to see it, man. Hope to see it. It's going to be some serious competition on the back end of our defense. Kyle Sweat says we have a back end that can lock down pass routes for about 3.2 seconds. Do we have the D line that can bring that time down to 2.2 seconds? That's impressive when you can bring it down to 2.2. 2.5 is what the average, I think. It takes a QB to get the ball off in the SEC. 2.2 is impressive. I don't know. Like who was our pass rusher? Because again, 2 of those guys are gone.
Yeah, I was about to say that the guys that you counted on to make that happen last year.
They were in the Senior Bowl yesterday.
Right. No longer on the team. So somebody's got to step up and be that guy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Corey Weber says, does Pritchett have the hips to be a lockdown cornerback?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know that his hip fluidity was necessarily the issue for him. I think his eyes were. I think he got caught looking a little bit too much. I don't think it was because he couldn't turn and run with guys. I think it was just because he just had his eyes in the wrong place sometimes.
Do you think that's
double moves and stuff like that?
That's not a symptomatic of him just learning to play in the zone, is it? You think?
I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why. I mean, some guys are just because the reason why I say I don't think it's a hip thing, because like when you watch him play slants, right? Like he's there a lot of the times on those slants. Like he's, and he's got the speed to turn and run. He doesn't get run by as much. I think sometimes his feet get stuck in the mud again because he's looking in the backfield too much and he's just not like prepared. I need to go. I'll go watch maybe some more tape on Pritchett, and I can answer that tape that a little bit better though. So
yeah. Corey says, I think Mba can be a fantastic, strong side defensive end.
Yeah, he can be. He absolutely can be. He can hold to the point of again. He's got all the physical makeup of a guy who you could put anywhere along the defensive front, and he could be really good. Not zero tech wise, but he's a big presence that you could move around and do some stuff with. He's just got to prove from a technique and physicality standpoint that he's ready to do it snap in, snap out.
Thomas Jones, appreciate the super sticker. And I found your comment. He says, overall, in y'all's opinion, which side of the ball improves most during the off season? Portal season, he asks. Which side of the ball improves the most?
I don't know. That's difficult, man, because I don't know that the defense has a lot to improve. I mean, they got some.
That's what made the offense easy for me. I mean, there's clearly some areas you can improve there, which is why I would vote the offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see what attrition happens post spring, and that's going to help tell that story a little bit better too, right? Like, who decides, hey, it's not looking good for me. I'm going to try my hand elsewhere. So.
James Barnett says, fellas, what are your thoughts on us losing a few guys on defense because we're so
It's gonna
stacked?
happen.
Absolutely. We've actually have already prophesied that weeks prior, just because we have so many guys in that room that they brought in. And that tends to happen with a new coaching staff anyway. You're going to be stacked. There's going to be a lot of guys to see where they stand. Once they find out where they stand and come those meetings after spring, you're going to see some guys hit the portal. So be prepared. What you don't hope will happen is one of your guys who's a key contributor or who's been playing a lot in spring transfers out, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to see that. But if it's a guy that you haven't seen much of, you can pretty much know the writings on the wall with those guys. So good conversation. I enjoyed this. We'll continue to think about topics like this throughout the offseason. Got a long offseason ahead of us, but a lot of things to look forward to in spring ball. So we'll definitely keep you locked there. Guys, we have a giveaway to get to. We are giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. That's our guy Waltz. Enter hashtag get your weight up to win. Hopefully you have done that as you've been listening, because Ike no longer waits.
It's time to get to it, man. 52 people have the blessed chance to get them a free mug. Who is it going to be today? It is Jay Conwell. New name. Haven't seen that one win anything. So definitely want to see if you are still around, Jay. If you are, let it be known in the comment section and we will let you know what to do to get your mug.
Yeah, be on the lookout for him, Ike, for sure. I'll keep an eye out for him as well. We will draw again for sure if we don't hear from you. So if you're behind or delayed or your phone rung or you went to go do something, sorry, not sorry. We will draw again. Yep. You don't have to, because he says I'm here. Congrats, sir. What we need for you to do is email us at business@the-war report. We need your physical address, and that free mug will be coming your way shortly. Congrats, and thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us on the Weekend Tailgate. Ike, let's talk. Let's talk that tough game yesterday, man.
Yeah.
You actually covered this game. You were actually drove up to Knoxville to cover Auburn basketball. How was the experience?
The experience?
Yeah, you had an experience.
At the arena?
Yeah. Should we make you a big screen by yourself?
No, I'm
okay.
good.
All
I'm
right.
good. I'm good.
All right.
I want to say this respectfully. I want to say this respectfully.
Typically, when people say that,
yeah,
a lot of disrespect comes behind that.
I'm gonna try not to be disrespectful.
Okay.
I'm gonna try, but I'm gonna be honest.
That's fair. That's fair. You're gonna try.
I'm gonna try. Fair. No, I'm not.
See, I knew it. I knew the disrespect. I see every time you say respectfully.
Because I don't have a lot of good stuff to say, man. I just don't have a lot of good stuff. This has very little to do with the game, right? Like the game whole separate, bro. Like,
with all due respect,
that's a really weird place, bro. It's weird. Yo, it's weird, bro. Like, they had this weird upset. Like, I get, Coach Pearl used to be there and all this they had this really weird obsession with Stephen Pearl. Like, they were just saying like wow stuff to him in the crowd. I was just like, yo, like, why are you doing that? Like, every time it would get quiet, this one section of people would just start yelling stuff at Stephen Pearl. And I was just like, yo, like, sit down, bro. Like, what's wrong with you, man? And then like these weird people, like, okay, so first and foremost, I tweeted this earlier today. Somebody said something about because let's remember, this is the same people who brought you mustard on the field, right? Like, it's the same. This is the same group of people. Yeah. There was an announcement before the game started, and I've been to a lot of Auburn games. I don't recall them having to make this announcement at an Auburn game. The next time I'm there, I'm going to pay attention to see if it happens. But they literally had an announcement over the PA system that says, we'd like to remind you not to throw things on the playing surface. Like, they had to remind, it's like, hey, just in case you guys forgot, you're not supposed to throw stuff out there onto the playing surface. Like this is what y'all dealing with the fans, right? Like they was saying super weird stuff to players. Like there was this one point in time where Janai got hit in the face and he was down on the ground for a little while. Somebody from the crowd yelled, "I hope you stay down." I was just like, what are we doing? Like, is that real? Like, I was just like, come on, man. Like, and then it was weird because like the crowd was just like oddly not cheering for like the vast majority of the game. Like this dude, so every team has a hype man, right? Like the guy with the microphone who's like yelling stuff, trying to get people into the game. Like you can see it in professional sport. Like they always have this mic guy that's supposed to be hyping the crowd up. They weren't doing the cheers. They weren't doing them. Like they was like, and he was like, "I need y'all loud," and they had to do it like 5 times before people actually got loud. I was like, "Do y'all want to be here? Because this is a really big arena with a lot of people in it, and y'all are like, and don't get me wrong, when they got loud, it was super loud. Like it was very loud in that arena once they turned up, but they was like kind of chill for a lot of the game, bro." And I think the weirdest thing, and this is, listen, I have absolutely nothing against. I have to give this caveat with what I'm about to say. I have nothing against people who have different sexual orientations. All right, that sounds really weird, but it was really weird to me that during the timeout, the dance girls came out and they're about to start dancing, and everybody's like super quiet. But then a dude walks out there to dance. Everybody like went. Maybe he's just like oh, I love this dude kind of person. But y'all wasn't excited to see the women dance. But then when the dude walks out there to dance with them, and then the dance girls move out, and a bunch of guys dressed as security start dancing. Like that's the loudest ovation I heard the entire night was when this group of dudes started dancing, and I was just like. Do y'all just like male dancing? I was confused, bro. I was very confused for a large portion of the afternoon. I really was. I was just like, I don't know. This is weird. I don't know what's happening right now.
Ooh, okay.
The DJ wasn't good. Like every arena has the DJ wasn't good. Like they had this one song that they was trying to like loop it over and over so they could play this one part, and the loop wasn't on beat. Like it would come back in off beat. I was just like, you can't loop stuff right, bro. Like, what are we doing, man? Like it was weird. It's a street in downtown Knoxville called Clinch Avenue. It's a weird place, bro. It's a weird place, man. It's weird, bro. I was just like, I don't know if I'll enjoy this. I just don't know. It ain't for me. It's not for me. And that's aside from the
Damian Smith said Magic. I thought Magic Mike too. Maybe that's their Magic Mike at Rocky Top,
bro. It was just, it's weird, bro.
Did you yell? Did you? Never mind. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this with you today. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game.
Yeah.
Before we get to the end, I actually am proud of the effort, given that we were down Dylan Cardwell in this game.
Yeah.
I was proud of our effort. Again, it didn't take me 23 games to realize that Auburn struggles shooting the ball.
Yeah.
So I'm not even mad at the fact that we were missing some very makeable shots, because we've been doing that all season long.
Yeah.
Right. This game was encouraging because we've seen Auburn just, it almost seems like when they lose, like they get beat. Right.
Yeah.
They were in this game. And I was impressed with our defense, because much has been made about Tennessee and their defense. Kyle Sweat, you asked, how can we put almost 100 3 nights ago and not even 50 in Tennessee? Tennessee is the #1 scoring defense in college basketball.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people have been bigging up their defense, because they're holding teams to 54 points a game.
So here's the thing that I actually, how Tennessee keeps people, they are very physical on both ends of the court. they set really tough screens
Yeah, they do.
on offense, and in the paint, they really make you work to try to get boards. Defensively, like they're bumping cutters consistently. They are playing, they're up like they are a soup. And I just, by nature of playing a team that physical, you're just more tired at the end of the game than you typically would be with other people. Like they make you earn everything out there, and that's not a bad thing. I think Tennessee is a very physical team, and they're big and physical, and
Yeah,
they're banging on you for 40 minutes, bro. Like it's hard. It's hard. You don't really get free, but they get back in transition really well. Like they'll turn the ball over and they'll be back in transition, preventing you from running out. Like they do defense the right way. Like you're gonna earn points playing Tennessee, bro. Like and having said all of that, we still got good looks.
right,
We got like
right.
they had a great, but we got good looks, man. We just weren't making them.
Such a winnable game.
Yeah.
Such a winnable game. And let me grab this one. Gaming PT says I live up here in Tennessee, and you're right. Knoxville is freaking weird. The fan base is whack. So you have
It's
someone.
bro, it's legitimately like as cringe as the Texas A&M, Yale practice stuff. This like my experience. This was up there with like I was just like, yo,
Mm,
what are these pod people? Like, am I being punked right now? Seriously, because like these can't be real humans walking around here doing the like. And I've been to Athens where grown men bark at you, right? Like I've been there. This was weird, man. It was weird.
Listen, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this about the game. Talk about KD. I thought he played a really good game coming off the bench. Actually, he accounted for all of the points coming off of the bench. He had 10 in the game. Um, I like seeing him get to the basket and actually try to finish in terms
Mhm.
of trying to just get contact and get a foul call. I thought his shot selection was better in this game, in which we've been kind of seeing that over the past few games from him. It seems like he's beginning to play within the game a lot more instead of just
Yeah.
out of control locomotive. It seems. Your thoughts on KD and how he played?
Yeah, I mean, he had some spots where it's like, what is that right there? I I I haven't rewatched it in any detail. I don't know whether or not he actually fouled the dude on the 3-point shot that he
More
made,
on that later.
Vescovy. Um, but he really wasn't in great position anyway on that possession. Um, but I thought he played a really good game. Um,
Yeah.
I think he should have been in there on the last play. I think he should have been on the floor for that last play. Um, because I think he's a dynamic shot creator and he's a big shot maker when he gets his opportunities. If he had made a couple of the open ones that he had though, it's a very different ball game. So he's just got to be what I liked about it was he realized his J wasn't falling earlier and he didn't just keep jacking up shots. He's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna just get to the rim or I'm gonna get in a little bit closer. And he was
Right.
taking tough twos instead of even uncontested threes. Cool.
Right.
I'm gonna get the ball. If I'm open, I'm going to the lane. So that's a difference in KD. Not going to the rim trying to get fouled and run into somebody, but I'm going in there to finish, and he was finishing pretty well. So I did like that what I saw out of him offensively. Um,
Phil Petway turned
defensively,
up all the caps and says he didn't foul him. By the way.
I it didn't look like it live again, but I haven't watched the replay. I thought it was a very similar play to the one where Wendell Green got called for flop. Thought it was a very
Mm,
similar play.
yeah.
Um, and it was definitely similar to the final one that didn't get called. So I'm
Right.
like, I don't know how one of them's a foul and the other one isn't. They look identical to me.
Right.
So and one dude, significantly bigger dude hitting a significantly smaller guy, so the impact is a lot
Vescovi
different.
is clearly walking into his landing space, like clearly on the slow mo. But anyway, Jay Will. I hate this game for Jay Will because this was not, again, we
Yeah.
needed offense
Yeah.
from him, and it just seems like he struggled mightily in this game. He went
He had
1
some
for
good
10.
looks.
Yeah, 1 for 10, 0 for 4 from three-pointer. Usually he can knock one of those down. Again, 43-46. Like, one of those shots fall, it's a different game.
Yeah.
Talk about Jay Will. And again, this is one of the guys you've been rooting for to take that next step.
To me,
Now
he
that
was
Jabari's gone.
the key. He was the key to this game. Jay Will needed to play big in this game. He needed to be a double-digit scorer in this game in order for us to win, because you do not have Dylan Cardwell out there, so he's going to be playing more minutes for you at the 4, right?
Mhm.
And he is a difficult guy to guard because he can go inside, outside. You know, Jay Will not having a good offensive performance. And I mean, he had some like weird turnovers in the game. Like he seemed like he just wasn't comfortable out there for a lot of the game. I think that him not playing up to the standard that he can play is a big reason why Auburn just offensively couldn't get it going, because normally he's a guy where it's like, well, if we can't do anything else, we can get it to Jay Will, and 2 to 12 feet, he can make little baby hook turnaround. Like he wasn't making them. He made the first one that he shot in the game, and then everything else he put up, just it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Jay Will is the guy that you have to look at offensively and say, yeah, we need you to be better. We need you to be better.
For sure. For sure. We got a daily dose of Janai Broome early in the game when Auburn jumped out to a big lead. Was there some things that Tennessee did differently, or is it just we just went away from Broome as the game went on?
They definitely tried to force the ball out of his hands a lot more later in the game. They were, as we weren't making shots from the outside, Tennessee was just like, all right, cool. We're just going to clog the paint, make you guys have to shoot them, shoot your way out of this. So, there was, I think the reality is still to this point, our guards have not said to themselves, we're going to force feed Janai Broome the ball. Like, they're I think they're too concentrated on let's run this offensive set, as opposed to, because Janai is going down and he's establishing himself early and he's asking for the ball. And then they'll get down there and they'll see him, but then they'll be like, nah, let's run this set. And it's like, the set is to get Janai the ball on the post. He's there already. Like, forget the set. Run
Right.
whatever comes after we throw the ball to Janai. Run the rest of that stuff, right? And that's where
Right.
we've got to kind of accelerate our process in our guard play and just say, all right, cool. He's already established himself down here in the post. Get him the ball, then run the rest of your motion stuff. And there were like points in the game where it was clear that they didn't know what they were doing out there. Like, offensively, they were just kind of running around. It's like, okay, cool. This person, oh, well, you need to go to this side. You need to go to like, where are we supposed to be and how are we supposed to run this with this group of people that are on the floor with where we are? And that's disappointing to be this far into the season and I think some of that is rotational differences with Cardwell not being in there. You've got Traore played some additional minutes, who I thought played hard. He's clearly undersized out there. He was getting on not Vescovy. What's the big dude's name? Starts with a P.
I moved off of it.
Pooch, I don't know. Anyway, the center for them, who is absolutely annoying. He was getting on his nerves, bro. Like,
Plavish.
yes,
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
He was Traore was bothering him because he was fighting very hard to get over the top in front, because that's what he was being asked to do. He ain't like that. He did not like somebody trying to get physical back with him, especially a guy who he's given up a lot of size to. Right? He's like, you're too small. Like, why are you bothering me? And he was just being pesky out there, fighting really hard to get over the top. I liked the effort that I saw. Like I said, he was undersized, so he really couldn't do much, but he definitely made his presence felt down there to say, hey, you're not finna just push me around, bro. Like, that's not how this is gonna go down.
Right. For sure. Let's see here. Wesley Hilson asks, has analytics killed the mid-range jumper?
Yes.
No one guards it anymore, and it seems like no one looks for it.
Yes,
I
it
quickly
has.
said yes.
Yeah, no, it 100% has killed it. People, have convinced you that taking a 15-foot shot is just it makes no sense when you could step back, an additional 10 feet and you get more points for it, right? So long twos don't make as much sense as a short three. And I'd agree, from an analytics standpoint, sure, right? You either take the high percentage two or you take the low percentage three, but if you can make them at a high clip, then you get more points for it. But the way that people defend now, why not take points that they're giving you? Get good at mid range, but here's the thing: guys that shoot the ball well in the mid range are guys that are almost you can't guard them. Look at DeMar DeRozan in the NBA right now.
Right.
He shoots a lot of mid range, puts up 30 consistently because people can't guard mid range stuff. If
Right.
you can
I mean,
shoot the mid range well,
that's how Kawhi got to where he was, because he was killing the
mid-range.
mid range. Yeah.
Like guys like Kobe, mid range, bro. Like I'm going to make it more difficult for you to guard because you have to guard me at all three levels. You can't just say, all right, well, if he blows by, we're going to feed him to a shot blocker. No, I'm going to pop this from 12, 15. And so you need to be able to be in my hip pocket from the 3-point line all the way to the goal, or I'm going to get buckets. And I think people have forgotten that scoring is the name of the game. It ain't shooting threes. It's not getting late. It's scoring. Score the basketball, bro. And if you can develop the ability to get that first step past people, but then also put the brakes on, then you're a scorer that people have a tough time guarding. And it just is not as fluid in today's game. People they've fallen way too in love with 3-pointers.
For sure. For sure. We face Tennessee again.
Yeah, last game of the season at home this time.
You think it's gonna be a little different this time?
I definitely think it's going to be a battle. It depends on kind of where the two teams are in the rankings. I think going into the SEC tournament, right? If Tennessee is still trying to fight for number 2 seed type of stuff, where they can be off the first night, then they'll still come with all of their guns blazing. Where we are in the situation, I think we're going to need that win more than Tennessee will need it, just looking at their schedule and what they've got in front of them versus what we do. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
How are we feeling about Auburn getting deeper into the tough part of his season, given the effort we saw yesterday against Tennessee?
As long as the defensive effort remains in that way, I think it was one of those things where Auburn got pushed and they was like, oh, no, we're not finna just let you push us around. So they stepped up their intensity to match Tennessee. You got to bring that level of intensity. But this is the issue, right? Is that in games like Tennessee, Auburn tries to do that same bully ball and refs are calling fouls on them. So they can't play physical like that, right? But in the Tennessee game, physicality was welcome. So it's like, oh, shoot, we could do this
thrive.
again?
They thrived. Yeah. That's a good point, Ike. That's a good point. Good point. Yeah. So if they don't let you do that, then it takes you totally out of your defense.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see, Missouri, Alabama, Kentucky, whether or not that physicality is going to be welcome, because those teams aren't as physical as Tennessee. Texas A&M is, right? Texas A&M is a physical team. So,
right.
They're going to have to bring it against Texas A&M and step the physicality back up, especially in their building. But the rest of those games, you're going to play more. And I hate to call teams finesse, but they're not.
They are what they are.
Yeah. Like they've got a couple of physical players, but I'm talking about 1 through 5 plus 3 deep on the bench. Tennessee is physical. Texas A&M, same way. They're physical from, they're going to trot 7 physical guys.
Mississippi State is like that.
Yeah. Right. And so those are the games that you expect, like Texas A&M prayerfully doesn't shoot out of their mind again. Right. And so it's going to be a battle of wills in that game, as opposed to you're throwing up 20, 5 feet behind a 3-point line, 3-pointers contested going in. Like, all right, we're not doing that again, hopefully. But if they are, then what do you do against that? Right. But if it becomes a physical matchup, I think I like Auburn's chances.
And I'm hoping that we'll get Dylan Cardwell back. I think he was sick yesterday and didn't travel with the team. So hopefully he will be with the team when they travel to A&M to play them for a rematch. Any thoughts on this, Ike? Non-Auburn related. It's reported Kyrie to the Mavs.
For who? Who was in that trade?
I don't know. I'm just seeing right now. It's one of those things where they're putting it all on whoever's breaking the story, just in case it's not true.
Hmm.
I think they're trading Spencer Dinwiddie. So Dinwiddie's going back to the Nets.
Yeah.
Dorian Finney-Smith, a first round and multiple second round picks.
Okay. Luka and Kyrie.
I don't know if I like that trade for Dallas because
Luka.
Dinwiddie was getting them buckets.
Yeah. And like, so it definitely puts you in a position where you don't have to have a high usage rate from Luka, but Luka wants the ball in his hands a lot. I don't know how that works. I mean, Kyrie played with LeBron. LeBron has a high usage rate. Kyrie's played with
Durant.
he played with KD. He's played with a lot of guys that have high usage. So, I don't know. It could be interesting. Rotation's going to be interesting with those two. We'll see.
I don't know if I like that for them, but I could be wrong. That could be a match made in heaven, and they go deep in the playoffs. Who knows?
You got two guys that could give you a bucket any given time.
Any given time.
The challenge for them is going to be defensively. So.
Dallas's problem is their front court. It's never been their back court.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, why that trade? But anyway,
they're probably the only team that had enough capital to get Kyrie where it made sense. So
that's true.
Unless they were going to get a third team involved in it and do some sort of 3-team situation,
which I'm sure the Lakers, Clippers, Suns were trying to do. But anyway, good show, man. Good conversation. Ike, you out here working. They done got you off the job.
Yeah.
You cutting up stuff.
Yeah.
Tell the people what you got planned this offseason and why you need to become a member of the War Rapport.
Listen, man, all of the film stuff that I am working on is stuff that you guys want to be able to see. I've got every throw, literally every single throw from Robbie Ashford from this past season on a cut up. We started that this week. This past week. We'll probably continue that this week. I got some basketball stuff that I want to get into coming before the Texas A&M game. So I might get y'all 2 this week because we got that rematch coming up. So there's some things I want to look at from that game that we did well and some things that we didn't do so well that I want to take a look at. So hopefully I'll have that ready for you coming into that game. But again, member-only content for a lot of this stuff that we're going to be doing. You can gift memberships to folks. Please do that so other people can come on board. We appreciate that. If you didn't get a chance to win today, you can buy something. Listen, all the stuff that we give away is available in the merch store. Hopefully, y'all aren't just waiting to get it for free. Some of you are doing, like, we got a lot of people that do patronize our merch store a lot, and we appreciate that. I got some new merch ideas that I'm trying to get cranked up, so be on the lookout for that. If you are into podcasts, well, so are we. We got podcast, the Auburn Express. Make sure y'all go check that out. Powered by the War Rapport. A lot of audio only content out there. Make sure you guys check in with that.
Guys, again, want to thank y'all for hanging out with us. Special shout out to Athletic Architects for being a sponsor of today's show. Guys, we had a great conversation. We heard Ike lament his issues with Knoxville. I'm pretty sure there's other people who feel the same way. Make sure they hear this rant by sharing this video on social media. Smash the like button. Help us with the YouTube algorithm. Help us with our engagement. Get us closer to that 10K subscriber base by hitting subscribe. Tell a friend. Grab their phone. Do it for them. Help us get there. You can find us on social media, guys. IG, Twitter, Facebook, at The War Rapport. We're TW Rapport on TikTok as well. We'll be back in the morning, Monday morning, with the morning drop. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.